Okay, so here we are in early October. Now, obviously it's not Halloween yet, but I thought this might get you, in the spirit of Halloween a bit early. Right now, we're going to take a look at Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of Stephen King's novel, The Shining, to the big screen. The movie was released in 1980, and I saw it in its entirety just recently. Now, I had always seen bits and pieces of it before, namely the infamous shot of Jack Nicholson peering through the door and shouting, "Here's Johnny." But until now, I had never seen the full-length movie. So, let's dive right in. The Shining revolves around the fictional Overlook Hotel, where Jack Torrance, who is played by Jack Nicholson in the film, applies for and actually gets the position of caretaker at the hotel. He is assigned to look after the hotel from October until May. Jack is warned beforehand that the previous caretaker got cabin fever, which is basically a slang term for a claustrophobic reaction that takes place when a person or group is isolated and or shut in for an extended period of time, and eventually murdered his two daughters and his wife, before actually killing himself with a shotgun. Jack is actually surprised at the story, but vows that that would not happen to him, and actually says the period of isolation was just what he needed. So he takes his wife Wendy, who is played by Shelley Duvall in the movie, and their son Danny, who is played by Danny Lloyd in the movie, to the Overlook Hotel. The elderly African-American cook, Dick Halloran, played by the late Scatman Carruthers in the movie, surprises Danny by speaking to him telepathically and inviting him for an ice cream. He explains to Danny that he and his grandmother share the gift. Now, because telepathically sent pictures seem to glow, they call the communication shining. Now, at this point in time, Danny asks if there is anything to be afraid of in the hotel, in particular room 237. Dick tells Danny that what he might see in the hotel are only a sort of picture, but to be on the safe side, stay out of the hotel rooms. After a month passes, the Torrances have managed to settle in their new dwelling for the next several months, but all three are having their own personal problems. Jack is having trouble getting his novel started, Wendy is concerned about the malfunctioning CB radio, and Danny is having more and more frightening visions. Jack tells Danny that he genuinely loves and cares for him and that he would like to stay in the hotel forever. At this point, Jack Nicholson is starting to get really spooky. Eventually, Jack suffers the same fate the previous caretaker did and catches cabin fever and tries to kill both Danny and Wendy as a result. Wendy helps Danny escape through the bathroom window, but she can't fit through the window, and what follows is probably the most famous scene in the movie. Jack uses his axe to break the door, and then he peers through it and yells, "Here's Johnny!" which is, believe it or not, a reference to the famous introduction for the Tonight Show host Johnny Carson, as spoken by Ed McMahon. The line was improvised by Jack Nicholson. Carson later used the Nicholson clip to open his 1980 anniversary show on NBC. Eventually, Danny is chased by his father through a maze, and, because there's a blizzard, every time he runs, he leaves footsteps for his father to follow. Because of this, he walks backwards in his own tracks in order to avoid his father. Walking backwards in their footsteps was an old Native American trick. Wendy and Danny escape in Halloran's vehicle, while Jack freezes to death in the hedge maze. The final shot of the movie is an old photograph taken at the hotel in 1921, in which Jack Torrance is clearly visible. Now, what did I think of the movie? I thought it was awesome. Stephen King himself said that while the movie itself was solid, it was a very bad adaptation of his book. Now, I've personally never read the book, but I did enjoy the movie. One thing that I think most people can agree with, though, is that after seeing this movie, I think we could all agree that Stephen King has a very sick mind, which in itself can be both a good thing and a bad thing. I'm not going to get into that issue at the moment, but I thoroughly enjoyed The Shining. If you haven't watched it yet, I would certainly recommend it. And now I leave you with a few interesting facts about this film. Although Jack Nicholson was always Kubrick's first choice to play Jack Torrance, three other actors were also considered for the role. Robert De Niro was also considered for the role, although De Niro said the movie gave him nightmares for a month. The other two actors considered, and I am not joking when I say this, were Robin Williams and Harrison Ford. This movie would have sucked kangaroo shit if these people were casted instead of Jack Nicholson. Nicholson was just made for this role, and he nailed it to perfection. Danny Lloyd got the role of Danny Torrance due to his ability to maintain his concentration for extended periods of time. In the DVD commentary by Garrett Brown and John Baxter, they state that Kubrick was able to film all of Danny's parts without the 6-year-old actor knowing he was in a horror movie. The exterior shots of the Overlook Hotel were actually shots of the real Timberland Lodge on Mount Hood in Oregon. The interiors are based on those of the Ahwahnee Hotel in Yosemite National Park. The Timberland Lodge requested Kubrick change the sinister room 217 of King's novel to 237 so customers would stay in their own room 217 fearlessly. Room 237 does not exist in Timberland Lodge, hence why they requested specifically room 237. The door that Jack breaks down with the axe near the end of the movie was a real door. Kubrick originally used a fake door made of a weaker wood, but Jack Nicholson, who had worked as a volunteer fire marshal, tore it down way too quickly. Kubrick did not include the topiary animals of King's book in the hedge maze, which come alive at the novel's end due to a lack of interest in them and limitations of special effects. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, The Shining holds the record for the film with most retakes of a single scene, with spoken dialogue at 127 takes. The participant in those retakes were Shelley Duvall. This movie is often considered to be a classic in the horror film genre, which I guess is one of the reasons why I made this video. I'm all about retro things, and after watching The Shining, I totally agree that this movie is definitely a horror film classic. So, there you have it. I guess you consider this a preview of sorts of what's to come during Halloween week. I hope you enjoyed it because I did a lot of research for this, as always. Thanks for watching, and as always, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.